Hey guys, welcome to my channel. In this video, I will be covering the essential steps for rendering SketchUp 3D models with D5 Render. For this tutorial, you will need the D5 standalone rendering software and the D5 Sync plugin for SketchUp. You can find both for free in their official website. Please bear in mind that there are some minimum spec requirements to run this program on your PC. Let's begin with this basic 3D model. As you can see, everything is properly grouped and I have already created and defined what my scenes will look like. Our next step is importing all of the furniture. You can do this by going into the File tab, clicking Import 3D Model and then searching through your Windows Explorer directories. This time, I will be using the 5D Plus library plugin. It's more efficient and it helps me stay organized. I heavily rely on keyboard shortcuts, native tools, and installed plugins to speed up this service. I'll be listing most of them in the description. One of my most used tools is a mirror plugin for copying elements with symmetry, and the native array tool, which you can invoke by hitting Ctrl while using the Move tool. Then type in the distance and number of elements you want to clone. Some of these components will be smoothly placed because they have their origin point in a convenient location, such as their geometric center or corner. So I can simply snap the guides or reference points and left click. One cool native feature in SketchUp that's not widely known is that while using the scale tool, you can hit Ctrl once to transform the element from its center. If you type a value from 0 to 1, let's say 0.5, you will reduce it to half its original size. And additionally, if you type a specific length followed by your model's measurement unit, in this case meters represented by an M, you are redimensioning it to its new size. Another great feature of the 5D Plus plugin is that you can rotate components with the arrow keys before placing them in your model. Now that I have all of my furniture set in place, I want to make some comments regarding how they are arranged and set into component sets to save a lot of time and memory from your PC. Generally, if you feel your SketchUp model is running slow, I would recommend searching for every grouped geometry that is repeated in your scene and turning them into components. This could be light fixtures, chairs, cups, among others. Take some time to reorganize everything into layers so it's easier to handle scenes. Then you can toggle on or off any certain layer group and update or add new scene to create a new layer state. Lastly, I like to set my D5 artificial lighting elements before exporting to D5. I will open any lighting fixture and place the corresponding element from this toolbar, where you will find point, strip, and rectangular lights. A very important rule is that you must place these elements at a distance of at least 1 mm from the original source so they don't collide and with the front face facing downwards. Since these are instance copies of an original component, every change you make will be updated on every other copy. Moving on, I will create some basic materials. As you can see, most surfaces will display this kind of Cartesian plane spread all along their faces. The first time, I will always add a texture helper that will let me know if my texture mapping is correct or at least approximate. and then create subsequent copies from it. With the exception of very rare or custom materials, in this workflow I won't bother to find accurate or specific textures for the SketchUp modeling, since I will later pick them from the D5 Render library. It's important that at the end of our 3D modeling, we ensure we have added physical spaces and geometry overlaps that will allow the render engine to generate shadows and occlusion in the rendering. So, with this all set up, we will proceed by clicking the D5 Export button. You will be prompted to select or create a new file. The next step is to export our camera scenes using this button. As you can see, the process is quick and straightforward. So, we will temporarily turn the auto exposure feature and the lights folder off. This will allow us to set precise exposure settings that go accordingly with our needs and intention. For natural lighting, we have two excellent options. First is the environment settings, which lets you customize the sky with parameters like altitude, latitude, clouds, albedo color, and sun size. In previous years, I wouldn't have chosen this over HDRI due to realism concerns. However, D5 has perfected this tool with their innovative system. For this tutorial, I will still use HDRI since I am familiar with it and I find it accurate, reliable, and straightforward. You can easily adjust their rotation and intensity using these sliders. Next, we'll apply a desaturate LUT filter to prevent bright colors from overwhelming the composition or distracting from the overall design. Let's go to the effects section to add a post-process effect that enhances line work visibility. It's the outline mode, which I'll use during the first phase of this workflow before disabling it for the final images. This effect is excellent for drafting and providing clients with detailed sketch-like renderings. Now, we will bring back the artificial light elements to start adjusting them. Select all and set their general intensity to 5. Change the color to temperature and type 4000. This will give it a nice neutral tone. For better management, I will put them into folders. You can start by dividing them into spots, rectangular, and strip lights, and later put them into more precise categories. For spotlights, I personally like this IES profile. It tends to be higher in brightness, but it's working well for this scene. For strip lights that are very narrow and set back into the model, I will be using values from 10 to 20 and even 30. You should test these values all individually to get the best looking result. Finally, hit the I key to invoke the material picker. Click on any lit surface to activate the missing property from our LAT material and give it a value of at least 10 in intensity and 3000 in temperature. With this example, I will cover the fundamentals of physically correct materials in D5 Render. The UV section lets you adjust the texture mapping. Note that increasing the stretch value actually makes the texture smaller. The specular controls how the surface absorbs and reflects light and its surroundings, similar to Fresnel and IOR in other rendering engines. Roughness works opposite to glossiness. Lower values create shinier or more glossy surfaces. Metalness should be used specifically for metal objects, while opacity is particularly useful for cartons and transparent materials. The normal parameter requires a map containing information about surface height and bumps to function properly. In this advanced section, you'll find hue, lightness, and saturation controls. The hue slider lets you adjust the tone without relying on any external editing software. Lightness controls the brightness, while saturation controls how vibrant the textures appear. You can also add a color overlay to the material. So let's start with material editing. Press the M key to open the D5 library, where you can browse through all available material categories. To save time in this tutorial, I have already prepared and saved the materials locally. Simply left-click on a material, press M again to hide the library tab, and click on your target surface. It's that simple. Keep in mind that white surfaces reflect the most light, so when we switch to PBR materials, the scene will become darker as fewer light rays bounce around the room. We'll adjust exposure settings gradually to compensate for this change. Although D5 imports translucent materials with glass-like attributes, remember to apply the PBR glass preset from the gallery. For this project, the client requested a tinted glass door, so we'll apply the adjustment with a color overlay. Enable thickness and caustics for extra realism. If you need to copy a material from your scene, just color pick it and click the duplicate button. This creates an independent copy that you can modify without affecting the original. I spent considerable time perfecting the look of this espresso machine. Good example of why you should curate a library of ready-to-use materials and 3D assets. In 3D rendering, rounded edges are key for realism, since they match how things look in real life. Even sharp corners actually have tiny rounded edges that change how light bounces off them. Adding these subtle rounded edges creates better lighting and reflections, making your renders look much more authentic. We'll select each material one by one and set rounded edge values between 1 and 3, depending on how these objects appear in real life. Since I started writing this tutorial, D5 has implemented and improved several tools for creating green walls. In the past, I relied on placing and multiplying individual 3D rotated components along surfaces. Now, the process has been greatly simplified with their amazing scatter tool. I will explore this tool's complexities in future videos, but here you'll get an overview of how I achieved these results through both methods. First thing we need to do is to apply a ground material to cover the surface. We don't want to see any unrealistic solid color in the background. Then, I will just bring this ready-to-use brush from the library and try to put it in the right location. Sometimes it helps a lot using the orthographic views to work more precisely, and then you can go back to check how it looks from your scene. I will duplicate it by left-click and drag to cover the entire wall's length. Now, let's hide that and give the scatter method a try. Click on the brush button and select any 3D plant you want to use. I have mine saved in the favorites section of my D5 Studio, and I will select both to have some variety. Set the radius to maximum and adjust the density and size values accordingly. For vertical surfaces as this wall, it's very important that you check the Align to Terrain box. The result was good, so let's keep it for the final images. One of the finishing touches is the custom wallpaper in the kitchen's back corner. Currently, it's just a plain color map from the distributor's website, but I want to add some realism using AI. Simply select the material and click the AI button, and that's it. This generates a custom bump map that makes the wallpaper pattern pop out. Let's finish our post-processing. Begin by adding a vignette effect to create a more cinematic look. Introduce a subtle amount of chromatic aberration. Reduce the overall color saturation slightly further. Keep the outline mode enabled, reduce its value, and enable the change by distance option. Add a subtle magenta tint by setting the value to 0.05. Note that negative values will shift the image towards screen. Apply a subtle bloom effect to create a soft glow around bright lights and highlights. Experiment with the white balance settings to find the most visually appealing result for your scene. Slightly boost contrast, slope, and shadows to enhance the scene's depth. Adjust the exposure value to achieve a darker render outcome. This provides more flexibility during post-production. Right-click on the edited scene and use the copy and paste parameters function to apply these settings to all other scenes. If necessary, make specific changes to individual scenes like turning off lights or adjusting the time of day, and click the update button to save. To export your high-quality images, simply click the render button and add them to the render queue. You'll be asked to select a working folder and decide whether to close the engine after the rendering completes. Your images will render in just a few minutes, depending on your computer's specifications, and they will look even better than the real-time preview, since they are fully processed renders. And this concludes our practical case study. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, feel free to share them in the comment section below. And if you found this tutorial valuable, don't forget to subscribe for more content like this. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.